welcome to the deep dive. So today we're doing something a bit different. Forget the usual headlines. We're digging into history through, well, sheer natural power. 5 absolutely catastrophic events that really changed the world.
That's right. And our mission really is to get past just the headlines of these disasters. We want to explore the deep, lasting impacts they had, on landscapes, ecosystems, even human history, using firsthand accounts from our sources.
Okay, let's jump right in. First stop. Iceland, June 1783. The Laki Eruption, can you picture it? The ground literally trembles, splits open, and then for 8 straight months, it's just lava and toxic gases pouring out.
I mean, the amount of sulfur dioxide, it's almost unbelievable. We're talking about 120 million tons. To give you some scale, I mean, that single event had the power to mess with the global environment. Seriously.
Yeah, and it absolutely did. Starting right there in Iceland, obviously.
Yeah.
A toxic haze just settled over everything. It poisoned the grass with fluorine, which, killed off huge numbers of livestock. Then acid rain hit, wiped out crops, and triggered this devastating famine. They lost, about 25% of the population?
Right, around 12,500 people, a staggering loss for Iceland at the time.
But, like you said, it didn't stop there. Laki's impact went way beyond Iceland.
Oh, definitely. All that sulfur dioxide shot high into the atmosphere. It actually cooled the entire northern hemisphere, measurably so. By about 1 degree Celsius. This wasn't just some weird local weather, it was a major climate shift.
Exactly, and people noticed. The sun looked dimmer, kind of hazy. Benjamin Franklin, over in America, he actually wrote about this persistent, strange fog.
Right.
And this wasn't just, an interesting observation. It led to massive crop failures. North America, even Japan felt it, followed by these incredibly brutal winters.
Yeah.
It really shows how connected the climate system is, even back then.
And what's really fascinating, potentially, is the link historians sometimes draw to bigger events. Some analyses suggest that the economic fallout, the hardship from those crop failures across Europe, well, it might have added fuel to the fire, contributing to the conditions that sparked the French Revolution just a few years later.
Wow. So a volcanic fissure in Iceland could have helped shape French history.
It's a powerful thought, isn't it? How interconnected everything is.
It really is mind-blowing. Just thinking about one geological event, having those kinds of cascading effects across the globe makes you think about how sensitive things are. Okay, let's shift gears. From icy Iceland to the intense heat of the Caribbean, the Great Hurricane of 1780. This was October 10th to 16th.
Yeah, this was a monster, a Category 5 storm. We're talking sustained winds over 200 miles per hour. I mean, it's hard to even grasp that kind of power. That's beyond most tornadoes in terms of sustained wind.
And the devastation, it was just absolute. Across islands like Barbados, Martinique, St. Lucia, it's still the deadliest Atlantic hurricane ever recorded. Over 22,000 people lost their lives. Just horrific numbers.
The accounts we have from sources, they paint a picture of complete annihilation. Forests just leveled, gone. Coastlines scoured away by the storm surge, that wall of water pushed ashore by the winds. Ecosystems completely shattered. Even stone forts in Barbados, things built to withstand cannon fire, just crumbled.
And this was happening right in the middle of the American Revolution, wasn't it?
Exactly, not in a vacuum. The British and French fleets were heavily involved in the Caribbean theater. This hurricane sank quite a few warships from both sides, which, certainly must have shifted the naval balance, maybe even influenced the war's direction.
So nature itself playing a role in human conflict.
Precisely. It really drives home how vulnerable we are, fundamentally, when faced with that kind of raw power.
Okay, let's cross the Atlantic now. To the Netherlands, 1530. St. Felix's flood.
Right, November 5th, a day they called Evil Saturday. And for good reason. This was a catastrophic storm surge.
The descriptions are terrifying. Sources call it biblical proportions. You just imagine the sea rising up and swallowing everything.
And the human cost was just immense. Estimates suggest over 100,000 people drowned. The North Sea basically just surged inland and took the land. Permanently.
And the geography changed completely.
Dramatically. Our sources say 18 entire villages just disappeared under the water. Vanished. The town of Reimerswald became this eerie ghost town, eventually just abandoned. Huge areas of fertile farmland, what's now called the Verdronken Land van Reimerswald, the drowned land just submerged.
Wow.
It even carved out new river paths, fundamentally altered the landscape.
So the impact on food production must have been, catastrophic for generations.
Absolutely. But interestingly, this disaster also forced a major change. It was a key driver behind the Dutch developing their incredible water management systems. The dikes, the polders, the canals. That ingenuity was really spurred by tragedies like this. A brutal lesson, but it led to amazing adaptation.
So resilience born from total devastation, still imagining that relentless water, just taking everything, homes, fields. It's hard to fathom that feeling of being utterly powerless.
It does raise big questions, doesn't it? About how we live with nature, how we rebuild, how we adapt. Okay, let's shift again. Different kind of disaster. Japan, 1792. The Shimabara Peninsula Disaster. This was a sequence of events, really.
That's right. It started with Mount Unzen erupting on May 21st. But the eruption itself was almost just the opening act. The real catastrophe came next, triggered by earthquakes.
Exactly. 2 big earthquakes destabilized the nearby Mayama Dome. And this caused a truly colossal landslide. We're talking maybe 340 million cubic meters of earth and rock just letting go.
That's a staggering volume. Hard to picture.
It is. Enough to bury a good chunk of a city. And it did. It slammed down, burying parts of Shimabara City, and then crashed straight into the Ariake Sea.
Which then triggered a tsunami.
A massive one. It just devastated the coastline, and the death toll breakdown is horrifying. Around 15,000 people died in total. Roughly 5,000 killed by the landslide itself.
Okay.
Another 5,000 killed by the first tsunami wave hitting the coast.
Right.
And then another 5,000 killed by the water surging back out and then rushing back in again. Just wave after wave of destruction. A compounding disaster.
It's a chilling example of that cascade effect. One disaster setting off another, making everything so much worse. Our sources mentioned a Japanese saying that came from this. Something like, Shimabara erupted, Higo affected.
Yes, highlighting how the impact rippled outwards, affecting communities across the water in Higo province. It shows that interconnectedness again. Earthquake, landslide, tsunami. It reveals these complex, sometimes unpredictable interactions in Earth's systems. Experiencing that chain reaction of terror, it must have been beyond devastating.
Almost unimaginable, just one blow after another. Okay, finally, let's look at the 1931 China floods. This one. The scale is just immense in terms of area, impact, human cost. Truly one of the deadliest natural disasters we have on record.
Yeah, this wasn't a single event, but a drawn-out crisis.
Yeah.
June through August 1931. It followed years of drought, ironically. Then came these incredibly heavy, sustained rains. The major rivers, the Yangtze, the Huai, the Yellow River, they all just swelled to catastrophic levels.
And the area affected. It's just mind-boggling. An area the size of England plus half of Scotland ended up underwater.
Major cities like Wuhan and Nanjing were submerged for months.
Wow.
And then on August 25th, the critical dike failed at Lake Ayu. And that caused a sudden, horrific loss of life just from the initial surge.
And the overall death toll. It's hard to nail down, right? The numbers are all over the place.
They really are. Estimates range incredibly widely, from maybe 140,000 documented drownings initially, to potentially as high as 4 million when you factor in the subsequent famine, disease outbreaks, everything that followed the initial floods. The true number is likely lost to history, but it was undoubtedly catastrophic.
And the devastation beyond the loss of life.
Immense. Millions upon millions of acres of farmland just drowned. Crops totally lost. Entire ecosystems wrecked. Our sources suggest something like 52 million lives were just completely upended. People lost homes, livelihoods, everything.
And looking long-term, is this event connected to the later decision to build the Three Gorges Dam?
It's often cited as a major contributing factor, yes. A disaster on this scale really highlighted the desperate need to control the Yangtze, to try and prevent that kind of flooding again. A monumental response to a monumental catastrophe.
So again, a terrible event driving massive human intervention.
Yeah.
But thinking about those 52 million lives disrupted,
Yeah.
the sheer scale of trying to recover when nature just completely changes the landscape around you,
Yeah.
how do you even start?
It's a testament to human resilience, I suppose, but it also highlights the incredibly long shadow these events cast. The challenges can last for decades, shaping a nation's path.
So quite a journey we've taken. 5 immense, terrifying events. The Laki Eruption, the Great Hurricane of 1780, St. Felix's Flood, the Shimabara Disaster, the 1931 China floods.
And we can still see the echoes, can't we? Altered landscapes, coastlines redrawn, drowned lands, and of course, the deep cultural memories in those regions.
Absolutely. But maybe the biggest takeaway, the thing we really need to focus on from this deep dive, is learning from it all. The absolute need for better warning systems, for stronger defenses, for smarter ways to live with the planet's power.
These historical events are stark reminders, aren't they, of the forces we live with, understanding them, their causes, their consequences. Hopefully that helps us build a future that's a bit tougher, a bit wiser, more prepared.
Definitely. And maybe here's something to leave you with. How should knowing about these past catastrophes, really understanding their power and reach, how should that fundamentally change how we see nature's power, and maybe more importantly, how we see our own responsibilities in facing it today? Something to think about.